I'm coming to you guys with a cool video. Yeah. So the last job that I used to work at, it was at a luxury resort in Miami Beach, and this hotel was actually owned by the Lehman Brothers, the big banking company that went under and wasn't bailed out. It used to be owned by them, and they were trying to sell this hotel for $395 million that last year. They ended up selling it for $90 million. They owned the place for 10 years. Actually, no, I'm sorry, for around 5 or 6 years. It was owned by somebody else before that. But, you know, they had to liquidate all their assets. They had to get rid of stuff because they were bankrupt. So they sold the hotel for $90 million. Anyway, hell of a deal. It's a great place. We had this bottle at my restaurant, at the restaurant I used to work at, a bottle of Cristal champagne that was worth an estimated $40,000. That's what we were selling it for. It was all gold. The whole thing was gold. And it was a Jeroboam size. So it wasn't Magnum. Like you're used to seeing regular 750 milliliter bottles of wine. Then you see 1.5 liter, that's the Magnum. It has 2 wines in it. They go all the way up to Nebuchadnezzar size bottles of wine that have a huge amount of wine, right? This one had, I think, double the amount or 4 times the amount that a Magnum size bottle would have. It was a huge bottle of champagne, had a flat bottom. For the Tsar of Russia, and a clear bottle that you never see. The Tsar of Russia was scared he was going to be poisoned, so he had this special limited edition bottle made for himself, so you can see the poison at the bottom of the bottle. Only 400 existed and only 2 in Florida. So we had $40,000 bottle of wine that we were trying to sell, you know, at all the special events. At New Year's, we would bring it out for the ballers and try to sell it to them, but it never sold. About 7 months after I was working there, one day I happened to be sick. I had major food poisoning, and I get a call, a text. Somebody sold the bottle. The bottle got sold, $40,000. And yeah. Anyway, after this bottle sold, I was questioning who would buy this bottle and for what reason. Jesus Christ, $40,000 popping bottles, right? And it turns out the guy took it to go, the bottle, because it was a gift. This gentleman was an oil derrick tycoon from Texas. He just bought this as a gift, like you might buy a pen for a friend that you really care about, or a nice greeting card. He bought, instead of a car for your son, he bought a bottle of champagne. Collector's bottle, sure, but he bought a bottle of champagne for, I guess, a friend of his for his birthday. It was only 2 people, they ate and they bought the bottle. Now, that just should go to show you guys how much freaking money is in oil. That you literally, this is frivolous spending for you. It's, charitable spending for your friend. That you can just buy a bottle like this on a whim on one night. And to me, that's crazy. That's crazy money that you and I can't even fathom. Just throwing away $40,000. Most of you guys are invested. A lot of you guys are invested $120,000 are freaking out in Ether. But this guy, $40,000 on a whim. He was an owner of oil derricks, like I said. But there's a lot of money in oil. And that's why today we're seeing the Dow go down. The Dow was down 1.5%. I think it was almost 2% at some point, as oil shed huge amounts. As we saw that the supply of oil that the United States will have available, and I guess the world, is going to it's going to be in the whole world actually, is going to be a vast amount more in 2017, and then 2018, then 2020. Projections for the amount of oil that the world will need versus the supply, they're way off. We're seeing that there's a lot more rigging and drills being set up in the United States for oil, so supply is getting even bigger and demand is getting less. I mean, you can go to Europe and you'll see that Tesla, when I went to Amsterdam, in Tesla, the Tesla cars are the taxis, right? All the taxis, a lot of them are Teslas when you get out of the airport. They're very big on electricity, on electric cars, on less oil. And you look at Germany and the roofs all over houses are all solar powered. I think honestly, when I go to Europe, I used to think we were the most advanced place in the world. I realized just in certain ways how behind we are, such as in this way. And the US dollar, unfortunately, is pegged to oil, to the price of oil. For you see, the world's reserve currency, the biggest currency in the world right now is the US dollar. And I've said this before, you can look it up. It's the US dollar, meaning if you want to buy oil anywhere in the world, first you have to buy US dollars, and then you can buy your oil priced in US dollars, because that's what everybody's trading it for. It's the common currency of the world because of oil. So as we see that the world needs oil less and less, just through demand, and besides us, other countries using other means for fuel, we're seeing that the US dollar is becoming less and less relevant, and will become less and less relevant. That's just one thing. The other thing is that the US economy is big and keeps growing because in 2008 and before that, we kept lowering interest rates. Interest rates are the rate of interest that you pay on a loan. So if we lower interest rates on US bonds, you know, the world has to buy bonds. Basically, we go in debt, right? We go in debt to the world and to other people and to yourselves. You buy bonds because the US government says they will pay you back in 10 years a certain percentage. Now, this percentage has been getting lower and lower and lower, so why buy bonds when you can put your money elsewhere, right? And that's the case for the world. We are in debt through these bonds to the point that we can no longer even pay the interest. We're reaching that point, the interest for these loans. We can't even begin to pay people back for the money that they put in. We're getting to negative interest rate yields. And that's pretty terrible, because that means nobody's gonna want these bonds anymore. They're gonna default on these bonds, and that could mean that the USA could lose its AAA credit rating and lose its spot as a world reserve currency, and people will no longer need to buy the US dollar in order to buy their oil. Meaning that the US dollar is pretty worthless because we keep expending way more than we produce for the rest of the world, right? We barely produce for the rest of the world. We intake a lot. And so we really rely on oil at the end of the day. That's why we go to war at the end of the day. A lot of people say. We go to, and I mean, it makes sense. We go to oil because we need oil. We need people to depend on the US dollar for their oil. Anyway, let me cut it off there. That's gonna be part 1. And then I will continue with part 2 tonight when I get a chance for you guys. And this is about why I took my money out of the stock market, and I'm taking my money out of the stock market for cryptocurrency. Make sure you subscribe so you catch the next part of it. Like and comment. Take care.